Start by first unplugging the machine and then taking the guard off. Now I'm going to lower both the outfeed and infeed tables all the way down. Now we'll start loosening up all the jib bolts. Now we'll take the jibs and the knives out. Now I'll blow out any sawdust that's down in the cutter head. Now I'm going to take a little piece of tape and put them over the small springs that are down in the cutter head. Keep them from falling out as I turn the cutter head around. Now I'm going to start grinding the knives, and I use this little machine here, a knife grinder from Grizzly. And this is the knife holding jig. Alright, now I place the knives in the jig and check, make sure it's an even depth all the way across. Usually set it around 3/4 of an inch. And just to adjust the screws in the back to make sure it's an even dimension all the way across. Now we just pass it over the grinding stone a few times. Before I do this, I check and make sure the bevel of the knife edge is sitting properly on the stone. And I might need to adjust the stone up or down a little bit to make sure it's correct. And just occasionally need to adjust the stone with a wheel dresser. Okay, now we're going to hone the knives. Use a small honing stone and some blue can spray. After grinding the knives, there's a little bit of a burr on the back side of the knife, and we want to get that off and further refine the edge with the honing stone. The most important thing here is to make sure the knife edge is pointing away from you. Okay, now we're all done honing the knives, and now we're going to set them back in with the jib. Now use a knife setting jig to set the knives at the proper height. Now we'll just very lightly tighten 2 bolts to hold the knife in place. Now continue all the way around, first pulling off that piece of tape that I put over the springs. Now I've just raised the outfeed table up, and I want to get the outfeed table roughly adjusted at this point, so there's a slight drag on the knives on each end, and adjust the knives so that we've got equal drag on all three knives. Okay, now I've gotten the knives all adjusted, so there's a slight drag on each one. Now I'll tighten up the rest of the jib bolts. Okay, now we're going to do the final adjustment on the outfeed table. And you want to get the table raised up just a little bit, so you get the knife just barely touching the level. And if I find at this point one of the knives is still out of adjustment a little bit, I can loosen up the bolts again and just readjust the knife. I came across a little problem while I was adjusting the knives. The jack screws that lift the knives up are becoming too short after grinding the knives down several times. Coming out of the thread, and so there was no adjustability left, and the adjustment screw was actually loose and wobbling around. Here's a sketch depicting what the jack screw looks like underneath the knife. So luckily I was able to get down to the hardware store and find ones that were just a little bit longer. 5mm, exact same head, same Allen wrench. So I'm going to take all the screws out and replace them with these. Now after the outfeed table is properly adjusted, go back and firmly tighten all of the jib bolts. I'll go around several times and double check. Now I'll raise the infeed table up. Now I'll do a couple test cuts to make sure it's cutting properly. Looks good.